A new Axios SurveyMonkey poll shows that 74% would vote for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is very, very terrifying. So I think that's 74% of Democrats. I don't think that's 74% of the country. Highly doubt that. But she has a legitimate appeal, and she is legitimately showing us something about politics. And some conservatives don't want to admit it because she's very ignorant and doesn't speak like a terribly educated or serious person. But she is offering something real. First of all, she's pretty good at politics. I think she's basically only ever done politics. She's been an activist. I guess she was briefly a bartender, and she was just always trying to run for office, and then she became a very young congresswoman. Here is just the sort of example, though, of her natural aptitude for politics.
What would you say to some of those people who have concerns about anti-Semitism within the Women's March group?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I think that right now, in this moment in the United States, we have to center this conversation. I think that concerns of anti-Semitism with the current administration in the White House are absolutely valid, and we need to make sure that we are protecting the Jewish community and all those that feel vulnerable in this moment. I think right now, as it pertains to today, it's so important to recognize why all of these women are coming together. And the reason all of these people are coming together is to make sure that the rights of women are protected and advanced.
Okay, so you'll notice she didn't answer the question. The question was, what do you have to say about the anti-Semitism in the Women's March? And she said, yes, we do need to talk about anti-Semitism in the Trump administration. And women are coming together in solidarity. That's what she said. But she did it either because she's shallow-minded or because she's a shrewd politician, and I think it's both, but it leans on the latter, is she doesn't want to answer this question about the Women's March, which is highly anti-Semitic. She doesn't, what does it benefit her? How does she advance by answering that reporter's question? It's an old rule of politics. Don't answer the question you're asked, answer the question you want to ask. Or you want to be asked. And so she says, yes, we do need to talk about anti-Semitism in the Trump administration, which is, by the way, patently absurd. They named a train station in Israel after Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been a great friend to the Jewish people. Many presidents have promised to move our U.S. embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. They've all flopped on it, except for Donald Trump, who actually did it. His senior advisor is an Orthodox Jew. His daughter converted to Judaism. His grandchild is Jewish. It's just insane to suggest that he's anti-Semitic, but it doesn't matter. She says it convincingly. She knows how to pivot, and she knows how to do it shamelessly. So she's got the political chops. Doesn't mean that she's smart. It doesn't mean that she's educated. She's neither of those things. But she is shrewd, and she's got good political chops. So what is she selling? She's selling radicalism and chaos.
I think that the part of it that is generational is that millennials and people and, you know, Gen Z and all these folks that come after us are looking up, and we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it? And like, this is the war. This is our World War II.
Oh my, you know, climate change actually is our World War II. That is correct. She is right. Generations all face their own problems. So the greatest generation, as it's called, rightly so in modern history, their challenge was World War II. Then the baby boomers, their challenge was the destruction of the culture, which they helped to advance. Now, our challenge is imaginary. That's our challenge. We have imaginary challenges. And we have imaginary challenges that are really driving us crazy. The millennials are the most depressed, anxious, stressed out, suicidal generation in recent history. 25% of American college students, according to an ASU study, suffer PTSD from the 2016 election, clinically high levels of stress, based on imaginary things. It's not based on real things. Materially, as a matter of peace, as a matter of foreign and domestic policy, we've never really been doing any better than we are now. But in our imagination, things are really bad. So what she's saying is that in 12 years, the world is going to end because of the snow monster or the sun monster or climate change or whatever. Nobody suggests this. This is There's no evidence of this, of course, at all. And let's just take a little bet. I'm pretty good at bets. I got $400 from Ben over there. I would like to bet Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez the same amount that Ben and I bet, $400, that in 2031, the world will not have ended. Okay? Alexandria, I know you watch this show. Do you take the bet? Just tweet me, let me know. $400, you say the world's going to end in 12 years. I say the world will not end in 12 years. Do you take the bet? I bet she won't take that bet. Because what she's offering is this radicalism. What she's offering is this chaos. And the sneaky little truth is that that's what people want. Specifically, what people want is a sense of purpose. And this is something that other forms of government and other cultures are much better at instilling than our postmodern democratic culture, liberal culture. In our culture, all that we can talk about is freedom or equality. Okay, those are good. I like those things. I like spiritual equality and I like freedom, ordered liberty. But there's not a sense of purpose. This has always been the critique of liberal society, is that you don't have a sense of purpose. It just leads to a society of consumption, or it leads to a society of decadence, or it leads to, okay, fine. And what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is saying is, vote for me and we will save the world, which is on the brink of destruction and which will not exist in 12 years unless you take up this great crusade, this great cause, and vote for me. That's what she's saying, and that's compelling, because everybody wants purpose. But in particular, in a culture which is decadent, which is liberal, people need to feel that there's some meaning to their lives. Especially now, our culture is so materialistic. We just think, oh, well, people are born, life is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing, then we turn to worm food and we die, and it doesn't mean anything at all. And she's saying, you can save the world if you vote for me. That's compelling. People want that. People also want to frame politics in moral language, as she does.
But do you think it is moral for individuals to, for instance, do we live in a moral world that allows for billionaires? Is that a moral outcome in and of itself?
No, it's not. It's not. And it's not. And I think it's important to say that I don't think that necessarily means that all billionaires are immoral. It is not to say that someone like Bill Gates, for example, or Warren Buffett are immoral people. I do not believe that.
First of all, it is to say that. If having $1 billion is immoral, then people who have $1 billion are immoral people. The reason she's qualifying her statement is she wants all that good billionaire money for when she runs for president. So she hates billionaires to a point. But also, what a stupid conversation. The fact that people on the left think Ta-Nehisi Coates is not just they think he's a great mind. The fact that they think that he's even a middling mind is just astounding, and it shows you that we're living in the dark ages. But you're having this conversation between Ta-Nehisi Coates and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I think if I went over to Ben's house and I watched his children say goo goo gaga to one another, I'd probably learn more. But they're having this conversation. He says, you know, is it moral to have billionaires? She goes, no, it's not. What does that mean? She's saying that allowing people to prosper and keep their own property is immoral. So therefore, what she's saying is that stealing other people's property is moral. It's not just moral, that's the moral corrective to the immorality of keeping your own property and to the immorality of prospering. It's obviously insane, but it's framing a debate in moral language, which until recently, Republicans and conservatives have failed to do. We talk about reforming the debt. We should reform the entitlement state. We should take care of our debt. We should take care of our deficits. This is a very important issue. But you're not going to do that by having policy wonks tell you about how much money they're going to save you on your retirement plan. That's not compelling to anybody. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez speaking in moral terms and doing it in the cynical way, which is to vilify a whole group of people, and doing it also in a cynical way because she's substituting immorality for morality, is pretty bad. But it's at least compelling, and it's at least giving people what they want. The other thing people want is courage.
On a scale of 0 to some, how many do you give?
I think it's 0.
That's what I thought.
Funny answer. Pretty sad that we're in this culture now where a network late night host uses that word to a member of Congress on television, and everyone's applauding and hooting and hollering. That's kind of sad for the culture. I'm all for speaking like a sailor in very specific circumstances. And that's not the circumstance that debases our culture and our government. Nevertheless, that's what she's saying. She's learned this from Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the king of this, right? He says, I don't care. I'm going to build the wall 10 feet higher. I'm going to make you pay. Listen, mother effer, whatever. It's that attitude which people want. And some people who were never Trump criticize this attitude. I don't criticize it. People genuinely want it. We want to see some political courage. We don't want spineless cowards like Mitt Romney to go around and be mealy-mouthed and speak out of both sides of their mouth and then stab his supporters in the back. They don't want that. They don't want people who are disloyal to a cause or to their constituents. They want courage and they want people to stick up for them and fight for them. And she's doing that. She offers that to a number of people, so I'm not surprised at all. And because she has the political chops to get some media attention, I'm not surprised that 74% of Democrats would vote for her for president. I think obviously, some of this is name identification, so a lot of people don't recognize the name Kirsten Gillibrand, but they certainly recognize Alexandria's name. And I assume a lot of this is going to fade away over the next 6 years before Alexandria is old enough to run for president. But for right now, she's offering something that people want, and I think President Trump offers that as well. And all the other conservative politicians need to figure out how to offer that too, because Trump ain't going to stick around forever, especially if the mainstream media and Bob Mueller get their way. So we've got to figure out how to emulate both of them, and while emulating the form of them, bring the content, which is real moral discourse, real policy solutions, real ways to reform our government, and real ways to reawaken an American spirit, which is lagging. All of those statistics about millennials remain true. They're depressed, they're anxious, they're stressed, and they're suicidal. That's a cultural malaise. That's a spiritual malaise. And we need to figure out a way to re-excite a lot of our country, and especially the younger parts of our country, because they will be the majority of our country, and they will define our culture for decades to come.